Now, the Israeli military has put in place so-called tactical pauses in fighting from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. in Gaza City, Deir el-Balah and Mawasi, part of measures including airdrops across the Strip. That as anger grows over surging hunger, the UN's humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, welcoming Israel's decision to support a one-week scale-up of aid, but he said action needs to be sustained, vast and fast. Let's hear first of all the reaction from Israel's Prime Minister.
The UN is making up an excuse and a lie about the state of Israel. It says humanitarian aid is not being allowed in, but it is. There are secure routes. There have always been, but today it's official. There will be no more excuses. We will continue to fight. We will continue to act until we achieve all of our war objectives, until complete victory.
Well, let's cross then to Jerusalem, talk to our correspondent Noga Tarnopolsky, who joins us from there. Noga, Netanyahu somewhat changing his tune here, would you say?
Yes, and tangling himself up in a bit of a web of lies, I would say, or contradictions, because in order to accuse the UN of having lied about Israel, as we just saw on the screen, he said that the UN falsely accused Israel of not allowing food into Gaza. In fact, what he's admitting is having lied to his own people, to whom for the last several months, for good and for bad, some of his political good, mostly for his political bad, he has been assuring Israelis that a total and complete blockade was imposed on Gaza. So we don't really know what he's saying here, but it's important to note that he has made a complete and total U-turn in not much more than 24 hours, without so much as consulting his cabinet. He simply informed them. Two of his most extremist cabinet members were kept out of the loop completely and are now contemplating resigning. And he has succeeded in completely confusing the citizens of Israel, who don't really understand why they were told until 36 hours ago that there is no hunger in Gaza. And in fact, some of the spokespeople are still saying this, even as Israel has changed its policy 100%, allowed 300 trucks of aid in overnight this night, and has allowed and even taken part in these airdrops that you've just mentioned. Israel already has connected its electrical system to a desalination plant providing water in Gaza, has allowed the UAE to provide a new water line from Egypt to Gaza. So it's a complete and total switcheroo, which hasn't been explained to Israelis, certainly not by the strange statement made by the Prime Minister.
There's been criticism as well still, isn't there, Noga, that these pauses, these airdrops still aren't enough to avert a long-term catastrophe?
That's right. The airdrops absolutely are not enough. They're very spectacular. They make good TV, but they don't make a good distribution system. The most dramatic part of the Israeli decision, and what it is hoped will make a quick difference, is the Israeli guarantees of securing the humanitarian corridors that will allow UN trucks to be safe as they transport food and other aid into Gaza. That's really been a setup. In other words, Israel has long said, enough food is getting into Gaza. What do you want from us? But while food was getting into Gaza, it was festering under the sun in these huge lots just across the border because there was no functional distribution system. I can tell you a little bit of breaking news here. We just found out in the last 5 minutes or so that Israel is now scrapping plans for the so-called humanitarian city, what was really being seen around the world as almost a concentration camp that the Israeli defense minister had announced in southern Gaza, which Israel had said at the time would be the only place where food would be distributed. Those plans have now been scrapped. So what it appears, what we seem to be seeing, Stuart, as strange as this may sound, is that Israel, or at least the Israeli army, is unilaterally putting into place many of the concessions that it was previously fighting or tussling over in the Doha negotiations of a ceasefire, now without getting anything back from Hamas, without seeing even videos, proof of life of any of the Israeli hostages. Israel is unilaterally putting all of this into place. And the understanding here is that this is a result of massive pressure from the United States that, while in public still continues to support Netanyahu 100%, that behind the scenes had warned Israel of a, quote, total diplomatic collapse, even with the United States, if the situation in Gaza didn't change dramatically.
Noga, thanks very much. Noga Tarnopolsky joining us there from Jerusalem.